Hello everyone and welcome back to a new video. My name is Silviu and today I'm showing you the best settings for exporting a song out of a DAW. Let's begin. Before we start, don't forget to check our channel for even more content like this. A like, a share and a subscribe would also be very helpful, and if you're a music industry professional looking forward to expand your network, check our brand new platform, thetalentuniverse.com. Now let's get back to our video. So when I'm saying the best settings for exporting a song, I'm actually referring to the best overall. I'm also assuming that you want to submit those songs to the streaming platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, you name it. Those platforms have different requirements. They have different quality, different loudness limits. So you either export the song multiple times for each platform based on their requirements and their limits basically, or you just export something which will work well overall. And this is what I'm going to show you today, the middle ground. So let's head to our project. So for this video I'm going to use Studio One 5 Artist. This is the DAW that I'm using on a daily basis, but what I'm going to show you here, the settings, the parameters and everything, they work with any DAW. As long as you know what these parameters mean, you'll be fine, no matter what you're working in. So the location, the name and publishing here in Studio One, we don't care about that. Every DAW has a different setting where you can choose them. For now, we're going to concentrate on the most important stuff. So in this tab right here, what I'm interested in is the output, which is main. That means that it will export everything which comes out of this master track right here. All the channels, all the FX channels, all the buses, absolutely everything. If you want, you can make it mono, but 99% of the cases, you will want it to be stereo because you'll have different elements going to the left, to the right. So this will basically make your song sound even worse. So leave it on stereo. Most of the DAWs have this use real-time processing. If you check it here, it will render the audio second by second in time with the song basically. So if your song has, let's say, 5 minutes and 42 seconds, the export will take 5 minutes and 42 seconds. Is this very useful? Does it make any difference? From my experience, no, not really, so I recommend not using it. Now, the most important part. As you can see here in Studio One, I have the option to export the song in a lot of formats. I can export in all of them at the same time if I want. Now, the most important formats and the one that we are interested in most of the times, depending on what we're doing, are MP3, FLAC, and WAV. So let me uncheck all of them, and I'm going to keep WAV. Now, if you're exporting with the sole purpose of uploading this song on the streaming platforms, WAV will do the job. FLAC probably, but it depends on the platform. I recommend WAV for all the cases. So if you have a song and you want to send it to the streaming platforms, send it in the WAV format. Avoid MP3, you don't need that. MP3 is often used for demos and stuff like this. And FLAC can be lossless, as in if you go to the compression to 0, it will probably have most of the information, even if you're using 16-bit format, but we'll talk about that a bit later on. FLAC is not that popular, but it can be useful in a lot of cases. Tidal, for example. Tidal offers you the option to upload your song in FLAC, and that's basically the best that you can get out of a simple export, something which can go on a streaming platform, obviously with the compression very, very low. Coming back to WAV. As I said, streaming platforms have different requirements and different limits. The first thing that you should take into consideration when exporting is your limiter settings. In Studio One 6, you have an option here for loudness, but considering that I'm using Studio One 5, I don't have it, so I'll have to put a limiter here. Let's say L1 limiter will do. And when we are applying a limiter, we want to basically take the song and max the volume as much as we can without distorting, obviously. So in all the cases, probably you're going with the threshold down, 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 and it will reach the limit. The limiter will put the limit there and it will heavily compress whatever goes after the threshold. Now, when submitting to streaming platforms, it's always good to have some room to breathe. And this is what this out ceiling does. Basically, wherever you set this, when you submit your song to all the platforms, including YouTube, it's always good to leave some room to breathe. This is what out ceiling does. So if I set this to minus 0.7, that's going to be the max volume overall after the limiter. So if you leave it to 0, the limiter will set the threshold, the limiter threshold, the max volume if you want, to 0. So when you play the song and it goes to the maximum volume will be 0. If I set it to minus 0.8, the maximum volume will be minus 0.8 decibels. And this is important because everything which goes above 0 in all the cases means distort, which means heavy compression from the platforms. As a general rule, it's always good to leave it at minus 1. That's enough for all the platforms, even though most of them will probably need minus 0.3 or minus 0.4, because if it distorts for them, that's going to mean compression on your song, and that's going to make it sound bad. It happened to me in the past, so trust me, minus 1 is enough. Now, going back to the export panel, which is song export mixdown, let's talk about these two parameters, probably the most important ones. I'll start with the sample rate because this is probably the one that you are the least interested in. The sample rate is important when we talk about the translation from digital to analog and from analog to digital. The sample rate is something similar to a frame rate, somehow, not entirely. So it's the amount of samples that a computer will take from the audio waveform in a second and then convert them to digital. So the more the samples that you have in a moment, in a second, in a millisecond, the more detail you'll have in the translated signal. So this is important. Now, these are not random numbers. 44.1 kilohertz is fine for audio platforms, for streaming platforms. 48 is great, but not all of them will accept that, even though slowly but surely we'll get there. And 96 is for bigger projects, for something which you want to edit afterwards together with a bigger resolution. Obviously, 192 and 176.4 is something which is another territory here. We're not going to talk about them now. As I said, they're not random numbers. 44.1 kilohertz means that the computer will be able to translate everything in the range of 0 Hz to 22.05 kilohertz. That's around the range of the human ear, so that's what we can hear. So 44.1 kilohertz should be enough for the streaming platforms. Resolution. This is more important. This is basically the amount of detail that you have in the song itself. So by default, 16-bit is selected, and this is again enough for the streaming platforms, even though we're going towards 24, which is great. This is similar to the video bit depth of a camera, so the more the bits, the more information you can fit in the same file. Now think about it this way. So let's say you want to write a story and you're using A4 pages. The bit depth will say that you are allowed to use a certain number of words in a page or letters. So the more words you can fit in a single page, the more details you can fit in that page about the story or about a character or something like that. And it's going the same way as here. So the more information you can fit in the same file, in the same page, the more information you have to work with. It also dictates the overall quality of the song when you export the final project, but at the same time, if you want to export a mixing project which will be mastered afterwards, I recommend you to use 32-bit float. It is bigger than 16-bit, a lot bigger, but for a mastering project where you need as much information as you can get, it is perfect. However, streaming platforms will not accept that. It will be too big and too much space occupied on their servers. So 16-bit in this case will do the job, will be enough. Hopefully we'll get to 24-bit soon enough, even though there are platforms which are accepting 24-bit. But my recommendation is to stick with 16-bit. The quality of the song which will go out from your DAW will be more than enough for most of the people. Now, another detail that we could talk about, but it's not that important. There are a lot of opinions about it, is something which is called dithering. Dithering is basically an option which will allow the DAW to change the resolution and the sample rate dynamically depending on how much info is in the song at certain moments. That can help, but at the same time it may make your song even worse. So for now, don't use dithering. If you want to find more about it, you can read a bit on the internet. We'll make a separate video about it, obviously, because as I said, there are a lot of opinions about it. Most of the people just don't like it, but in a lot of cases it can be actually very useful. But for now, what you need to remember is to keep it stereo, resolution and sample rate 16-bit with 44.1 kHz, and don't forget to mix your song well, and at the same time to keep the balance between the instrument, the voice and everything, and the limiter, very important, the loudness. If you want to test the loudness, you have online testers and you can upload the song there and it will tell you how much of the loudness the streaming platforms will take out of your song. And this is it for this video. I hope you liked it and I hope you found it useful. If you have any questions or any feedback, I'm waiting for them down below in the comment section. Also, don't forget to give us a like, a share and a subscribe because it motivates us a lot. And until the next time, take care of yourself. Bye bye.